Hi and welcome back to Scatterbrain. Today I'm very pleased to bring you my talk with Fright Rags production manager, Chris Tanski.
Cool, man. All right. Well, hey, Chris, thanks for coming on board, and I guess first, there we go. That's a bit better. Why don't you tell us? Start off by saying who you are and what you do.
My name's Chris Tanski. I am the production manager at a company here called Fright Rags, and we make kick-ass collectibles and T-shirts, socks, enamel pins, you name it, for mostly horror movies, but we've dabbled in some just pop culture in general, like we did Home Alone once, and so it's not strictly horror films, but that's our bread and butter, if you will.
Yeah, you certainly do. They're not as known here in Australia, but I sort of mention the name sometimes as I travel around, and people seem to go, oh yeah, I've heard of those guys. So you guys must be the T-shirt people. So definitely known for that, known for doing kind of original designs on T-shirts, and not just sort of like slapping the
poster
on the shirt, right? You know,
we do that from time to time, but
yeah. Oh, look, I mean, the masks and everything else that's gone along with the stuff that you guys have been coming up with recently is just awesome. The mini masks and obviously the wax packs, which is why I know you guys, and yeah. But it's like, I guess, you know, you and I connect because you're a collector, and it was sort of, obviously we work with each other as far as the trading cards go, but then I found out that, you know, you're actually into trading cards. You actually have been a card collector from way back and that. So, and you posted up on Instagram today or yesterday that, you know, so you were born in 76, right?
Correct, yep.
Right, so you're like, so I'm guessing the time you're 5 and 6 and 7, those years where you really start to like latch onto a franchise and just go, this is my thing. You know, this is what I really like. What do you remember as being like the earliest like franchise or the earliest thing that you really latched onto?
It would probably be Indiana Jones.
Right. Okay.
Raiders came out in 82, so I was 6.
Yeah. Perfect timing.
That was probably the crux of when everything kind of exploded. I mean, obviously in 80 was Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars. That was my first love. But I think pop culture in general really kind of hit its stride in that 80, 81, 82 time, where every property pretty much got action figures, and we started getting, you know, glasses at your fast food restaurants, and it was just the perfect time for collecting. I mean, collecting's been around forever, but not to the extent at which we see it even now. It's insane how 40 years later, how much stuff is produced for certain properties and IPs. It's insane.
It's a different kind of collecting, though, isn't it? Now it's now we collect for the purpose of collecting, but I guess back then you collected because you love the movies.
Right. Yeah. now it's almost this who has more things. It's almost like a contest. It's weird and it's sad in some ways, but you want to collect as much as possible for a certain property and to show off your goods. I mean, that's why we put things on Instagram. We're excited for what we're collecting, and we're excited to show people what we got, and I want to see what you got, and hopefully you enjoy what I am putting out there.
Did you collect any of the Indiana Jones stuff? Toys-wise, the Kenner stuff?
Yeah. Yep, I still have it. I still have the same stuff from 82 that I got for probably Christmas at that point. But, yeah.
Wow, so you actually held on to that stuff.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that held on to the stuff, and it sat in attics and luckily didn't deteriorate too much. Like, I had all my Star Wars figures, the original 80 something, I forget the number, in an attic for years. And when I finally wised up and was like, I should probably take better care of those.
Right.
When I got them out, they were all kind of sticky.
Yeah, they go
not too bad, but they go bad, and so to speak. But
yeah, they go a little rough after a while, don't they? Like the plastic starts to break down or something.
Oh yeah, it just feels like they're covered in honey. It's weird.
And so I guess getting onto trading cards then, do you remember like what your first? Do you remember like maybe not your first? That's a bit maybe a bit hard to pinpoint. But do you remember the first like wax packs where you were like, I got to have these every week?
Exactly. Somebody, the Halloween of 1982, gave out ET trading cards instead of candy.
Oh, that's awesome.
The rest is history, so to speak. I was like, what are these? Like, and I had to collect them all. And my dad kind of opened up my eyes to these things. And then we would go to this shop called the Daily Planet, and I would immediately go to the trading card section. And
right.
That's when they would have all the new stuff, your Raiders and Temple of Doom. I didn't really collect the Star Wars for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if those were harder to get for me back then, but I didn't really collect those until Return of the Jedi.
Right. So, I mean, that's sort of early 80s, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's no shortage of Star Wars. Obviously, they made like, multiple series for each movie. But I mean, I'm too, maybe I'm just a little bit too young for the trading cards on Star Wars. I was born in 83. So, like I sort of missed out on the Star Wars thing. Star Wars became a thing for me in the mid 90s. So, when they re-released the
special editions.
Yeah. And the super bulked up action figures.
The big cards.
That was my first trading cards were, Garbage Gang here, which is Garbage Pail Kids, and like Robocop and Batman, the original, like the Keaton Batman. Those were sort of our things. But even then, we didn't even have wax packs back then. I mean, all of our cards in Australia were all done in cello packs. So the wax packs, I didn't even get the concept until I was in my sort of getting to sort of 8, 9, 10, and there would be a local card shop, and he would actually get cards in from the States, and that was where we first sort of saw wax packs and full size cards, because some of the cards we got here were sort of mini versions. I was saying to a guy the other day,
weren't the boxes like different?
Yeah, smaller boxes, different amount of packs. So like a Garbage Pail Kids for you. Oh no, you guys had 48 packs in a box. So we had 48 packs in a box, but the cards were about 1/3 smaller than yours. So they're a mini version. And but the Batman and the Robocop and everything like, they were full size cards, but they were on different card stock. So you guys had the brown chip back.
Yeah.
Ours was all glossy white. So our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie cards are on the backs of them. They're bright white, glossy white cardstock. It's good for me as a collector, because when I'm trying to see what I've got, all I need to do is just flip all the cards over onto the back and separate the white ones from the brown ones, and then that's it. But it's crazy that they were just they just weren't. I guess they were for collecting, but not in the sense of like they had to worry about them being perfect. They weren't centered perfectly. They weren't,
right.
Like if the printing plates weren't aligned perfectly and the colors were bleeding out and stuff. But that's kind of what's cool about.
Yeah.
And so
give them character.
That's right. So how did Fright Rags? I mean, were you there right from the beginning when Fright Rags put out their first, decided to do like a wax pack release? Like, were you there? Were you working with them?
I mean, Ben, the CEO, he always had the idea. I mean, because we're about the same age, so we grew up collecting the same things, and we always thought, oh my God, it'd be so amazing to have wax packs of stuff that never existed. So imagine having a Halloween wax pack, because that was the holy grail, so to speak. And it took us forever to get that approved. But I mean, the sky's the limit. They're a pain in the butt to get made in terms of approvals, because you're dealing with so many different images. But when they come to fruition, it's just, you're just a kid again.
I mean, like, obviously, yeah, it's a long process. I mean, you don't need to go into the whole thing, but I mean, how does that, like, when you decide that that's something you want to do, say Halloween as an example, I mean, do you have to come up with the idea, the full business plan first, and then just present it and hope that they say yes and all that work was, or do you sort of do you go to them and go, you know, are you open to this idea? And then it's a process of, you know, getting images and I mean, I know from working with you, I mean, it's like this actor, don't do this guy. I mean, it's the same with everyone. Tops is the same as well, but I mean, they're like, don't do this person, don't do that person, don't do this person in that pose. You know, I can imagine it's almost a full-time job just sort of managing the, you know, for what will eventually just become a little 3.5 by 2.5 card. There's probably some serious time that goes into just even getting it to that point, right?
Yeah, we have my coworker Liz. When we get the go-ahead to do it, and we're allowed to use screen grabs from the movies, she'll just sit there daily and just grab screen grabs, and then she takes down the trivia. She researches each screen grab. It's quite a process, but before we go into that, we need to know what we can use and who we can use. We've worked it into a lot of licenses, but then we find out that you can't use screen grabs and you can only use assets. And then we look and there's only 3 assets, 3 photographs we could use. And it's just, so we try and think of ways to work with that. We weren't allowed to use too much from the Saw franchise. We did cards for the first Saw movie, and we just decided that we'll just do like a 20 card set because that's all we could use, and we couldn't use certain actors. You get very crestfallen when you find out you can't. Like, we have the rights to do Die Hard trading cards, which again, something that never existed.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But we can't use Bruce Willis, we can't use Alan Rickman, so it's like, well, then
so it's just a bunch of shots,
even attempting it.
Shots of buildings and things.
No, we can't even use the building. We got to get permission to use the building.
Wow, so it's just B-roll scenery.
It's a picture of a gun, maybe.
Yeah.
No, we can use we can use the partner there, and we can use Alexander Godunov. We can use. There's certain actors you can use, but no one's going to want a Die Hard set with just William Atherton.
I wonder whether that's something that they set up at the beginning, where, you know, Bruce Willis, you know, when they sign him onto a movie or whatever it is, like whether he sort of states right at the beginning to say like, hey, if we do anything, you know, I'm happy to be in the film, but if you want to do anything outside of this film, I'm, you know,
you can't use my likeness. Or they'll have likeness approval. Like we can use Kurt Russell, but he has to approve everything. But again,
and that's time and probably a long road, right?
And that's the other thing. The licensors don't want to take that effort because it just takes a long time.
It's more work than
88 cards, or then it's worth
more work than it's worth for that. That's really crazy. I guess you said Halloween, so and another thing that you put up the other day, I want to talk about Halloween candy. So I'll just start by saying, until the last 2 or 3 years, for me in Western Australia, Halloween was never a thing. Maybe some kids, no, kids would, you know, some kids will trick or treat, whatever, a little bit. No one decorated their homes. No one really dressed up or anything. It was sort of like maybe 1 in 10 homes would do like Halloween, right? So, and I know you guys do it big. The last time I was in the States, it was September, so it was coming up.
Nice.
It was coming up close. So I was walking through Target and Walmart and just like astounded by like aisles and aisles of just props, you know, like I couldn't believe it. I mean, I wish it wasn't so expensive to get stuff back in, but I mean, there were like full-size styrofoam tombstones, skeletons, like everything. And I was just like, oh man, this is so cool. So Halloween candy. So what's you know, what's from your childhood, and what about now, and what about your kids? Like, has anything stuck around long enough that, you know, it was there when you were a kid and it's still there now and it's still your favorite?
Pretty much everything's still kind of around. They get smaller.
Yeah.
The term fun size or bite size came into play. Luckily, my favorite, as you saw, was Reese's Cups. So those usually, you got the good.
What percentage of like would you say that like, do more than 50% of people participate in Halloween? Like if your kids go trick or treating, I mean, is there every other house is doing it, or is it sort of like what percentage of your sort of community really like dives into Halloween?
Well, when I lived in one neighborhood, it wasn't very good, to the point where we decided to go to neighborhoods that we knew were popular. So you could tell right away if you're going to have a busy night by just looking down the street and seeing which houses have their lights on.
Sure.
But when I moved in with my girlfriend, I was told about this one neighborhood in it down the street from us, and it's something out of a movie where pretty much every single, probably 80% of the houses on that street do trick-or-treating.
Right,
and they do it all up. They put the lights, and one house puts Hocus Pocus on in the front lawn. It's amazing. So it depends on the neighborhood, but I'd say it's so popular now. Like you said, when you saw in the stores, all the different decorations and people get excited when there's a store called Spirit Halloween that opens up, or with Party City. People are just chomping at the bit. Places like Home Goods, people are already going to see if they got the Halloween 2020 stuff out, and people are getting nervous because of the thing going on in the world with coronavirus. Like, people are scared that they're going to cancel Halloween. That just would be devastating to so many people here, especially a lot of my coworkers.
You have to pull your fun-sized candy out of a jar of hand sanitizer or something like that.
Or just do like candy drive-bys where you got to chuck it in the window or something.
Yeah, do it like an Easter egg hunt. Just like toss them out all over the street and just let people find them.
It's somewhere out there. Dress up your car.
I think we have a bit of that situation with Christmas lights. So we will have like every few houses will do Christmas lights, and then there'll be this one suburb, not a suburb, but like a street, like and so
everyone,
literally like thousands of people will go to this street, and then every single house for about a mile straight will just be lit up, so much so to the point that there are certain streets here where the power company will subsidize. The power company actually subsidizes all of their power for the month of December.
Interesting.
And then people give a gold coin donation, and then it gets given to charity or something like that. So in exchange for everyone like just burning power for like a month straight, the power company says, you know what, you can have all the power for free, and they take gold coin donations and then give it away. So it's pretty neat and that. But yeah, I think Christmas lights is probably our version of, like everyone going around. There are certain streets where it's gone from like, oh God, miles and kilometers. But gone from whatever it is, like 30 miles an hour down to just a crawl, because there's people crossing the street. Yeah. And so you're East Coast, right? So are you New York State?
I am, but when people hear that, they automatically think New York City.
And that's
we're more towards Niagara Falls, Canada, Buffalo.
Cool.
Upstate New York is the terminology.
Upstate New York, right. Yeah, actually, I was just at Niagara Falls in Canada last year, and we could see across to that. So that's a fair. No. Yeah, so that's, I guess, why I'm bringing it up is because when you say Rochester, New York, say that. That's not New York City. I think Ben had told me in an email, it's like, 6 hours away or something?
Yeah, 7,
Like it's a long, it's not the New York that everyone thinks. I think because for a while there I was thinking, next time I go back to New York City, I'll just run over to Fright Rags and say hello.
Sidebar, with your Christmas lights, do people leave them up and on past Christmas? Like, say, into the next year, because that's a thing here.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
All right, good.
I think that's a word we like to call laziness. And so people are like, they'll leave them up. Maybe they don't turn them on. Some people are like, hey, I could get to see where I'm, when they go to the mailbox, they can see what's in the mailbox. So sometimes they just put them on every night anyway for the rest of the year.
That's okay, good, because that's the thing I've always wanted. If you're going to do it and you're going to leave them up and on in March, just go the whole year. Just do it.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, so you're a Karate Kid, like, super fan, right?
Yes.
Right. And so Karate Kid, remind me, when did Karate Kid come out? What year?
1984.
84. Okay, so I'm 1 year old at that point. So you're like 7?
Okay. Yep.
Yep. All right.
Eight.
Right. So did you do karate? Did you like convince your parents to like get you to do karate, or did you just pretend karate?
Just pretend karate.
Just pretend you didn't start like karate chopping the pets and stuff like that.
No, I was a pro wrestling fan, so I choreographed fight. Yeah.
Oh,
predetermined.
Cool. Right. Oh yeah, pro wrestling and karate. Yeah, I guess that all kind of works. And so, I didn't even know. I think it might have been you that shared it, but like Karate Kid actually had toys as well, action figures as well. Like I know we must not have got them here, but like that's was it a big run? Was it a big set, or was it just a couple of things?
There was a lot of stuff, but they were just impossible to find. It was a company called Remco, and they didn't really have much of a fingers on the pulse kind of thing. Right. Or Kenner, if there was Kenner figures, those would just clean up on the
that's right,
in the stores.
Yeah. And so you got kids, like, and do your kids, how do they feel about your collecting? Are they collectors themselves? Has it rubbed off on you? Has it rubbed off on them, or do they kind of look at you and go like, why are you collecting cards and toys?
It's the complete opposite. I think kids today just don't have that urge to collect things. When they were little, I would buy them a ton of stuff and they would play. Like my son was heavy into wrestling, and we would just always buy the figures. One Christmas, it was just nothing but wrestling. But as they got older, it's more of not a thing where they just kind of toss it aside and move on to the next thing. And now with cell phones and apps and YouTubes and TikToks, it's just not a thing. When we moved out of their childhood home, my son was like, get rid of it, donate it, sell it, whatever. I think kids today just don't hang on to the nostalgia that we do as kids of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little bit throwaway. So like my kids, I mean, my kids are forced to sort of watch whatever I watch, right? So I mean, my kids by the age of 6 or 7 had seen Beetlejuice, they'd seen Ghostbusters, they'd seen Batman, they'd seen Ninja Turtles, they've seen all. So they have an appreciation for all of those movies, but they just don't have the want to kind of want anything from it or to hold on to anything from it, which was a sort of something that I had, which is, like I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then all of a sudden, I just wanted everything. I wanted the toys. I wanted the cards.
Books,
I wanted the
cards. Yeah.
The really awful bubble gum that came in like a film canister. Like it was like I wanted everything. And whereas my kids would get to the point where they would love that movie and they would watch that movie over and over and over again. Yeah. But they could care less about having anything from it. I mean, my older daughter, she, the Nightmare Before Christmas was like the Nightmare Before Christmas, Edward Scissorhands, besides maybe like a t-shirt, that was it. She didn't want any statues. She didn't sort of say like, oh, I want more, Nightmare stuff, or can you find me this, or they just don't have the sort of the hold on, they didn't want to hold on to anything. They're happy to just appreciate it and move on. Which is
my son was kind of the same way. He loves movies. That's what he's going to college for. Oh, wow. But just like you said, collecting things just isn't his thing anymore. It's just collecting dust.
Yeah. And movies. So I know that you used to work in a movie theater, right? And that was
20 plus years. Yeah.
20 years you worked straight in a movie theater. So what was your first job and where did you end up? And what was what was your role there?
I first started at movie theaters in '93. I was just usher and concession.
So you're seeing some good movies come out over the next 10 years. So I mean, did you Jurassic Park?
I've just missed it.
Just missed it. Okay.
It was I was November '93 and Jurassic was the summer prior.
Wow. Yeah. Oh yeah. You would have seen some gold. So what? Yeah. Sorry. So what were you doing when you? What was your first role there?
Usher, concession. You pretty much were trained on everything when you started. and then I just got hooked. I made friends that I'm still friends with today. I met my wife at the theater, and then I just dropped out of college and stuck with doing the movie theaters, and I became a manager and then first assistant. So.
Wow. And so is that for one of the major chains over there? Was that like a major like theater chain?
At first it was Hoyt's, which
we have Hoyt's.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we got bought out and we became a Regal.
Right. Okay. So we don't have Regal, but I know Hoyt's and I know you guys have AMC.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. So we have Hoyt's, which is part of another company, which I think is called Birch, Carroll and Coyle or something. So I think there's a bit of license swapping going around there. But yeah, like the movies, I guess as a young teenager, the movies was just everything. It was what you would do if you had. I don't really remember now it sort of seems like it has to be like an event because it costs a lot, especially if you're not going your own. You know, when I'm 12 years old and I have my student ID card and I'm paying $7 for a ticket, it's like, oh, cool. So we went to the movies all the time. But now I'm taking, 4 of us.
5 kids, 4 kids.
Yeah. So there's, me, the wife and 2 kids and it's, then, bucket of popcorn's like $6-7 for popcorn and $5-6 for a Coke. And so it's like, the last couple of times we've been to the movies, I went 4 for whatever the film with Jumanji, and, me and the wife will share a popcorn. The kids can share a popcorn, 2 Cokes, $120.
Later.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It better be a good movie too.
Yeah, I know. So it's a real event now, I guess, whereas, back in the 90s, it was just like, I say for kids now, it might be because I guess they're still only paying for 1 ticket, but it must have just been, I mean, even I go back again, the Star Wars, the special edition movies. I mean, for me, the 90s. So what do we got? We got Jurassic Park. I mean, even like Hook. Hook is sprung in my mind because somebody had some toys on Instagram the other day. But I reckon that probably more than half of everything that sort of sticks with me as being my favorite movies must be in that sort of like 86 to 96 range, even though I was probably too young in 86, but a lot of that stuff flowed on. So I wasn't Ghostbusters, my absolute favorite film, although it came out in, was it 84? Right. Yep. So like, I mean, there's no way. What happened was that I got into the cartoons and the toys back in 88, 89 and stuff. And then I had to sort of
there's a movie?
Yeah. And then I had to go back. Yeah. I have a little story around when the Toxic Crusaders was a thing, right? I used to love it. It was a Saturday morning cartoon. I love the Toxic Crusaders. And then what happens? We go to the video store, and there's the Toxic Avenger. And I'm like, I watched that. That's the movie. I had no idea. I don't know what happened, whether the parents didn't look at the rating or what, but all I know is I had Toxic Crusaders. I had the movie, bang, on the
Live
counter.
Action.
Yeah.
Little did they know.
And that was the day I became a man.
What are those?
Yeah, that was that sort of happened a bit, and I guess Ghostbusters was kind of the same. I mean, if you're a 4 or 5 year old kid watching the real Ghostbusters on TV, I mean, watching the movie, a couple
stuff
of
goes
things.
Over your head though.
A little bit, but it's just.
I never understood the Civil War ghost sequence where Ray's in bed. I didn't get that when I was.
Oh sure, yeah, and the same with the and like the Titanic and like all the things, all the references they were pulling back, but still absolutely one of my favorites, and even Ghostbusters too, which is probably a little bit more campy. Loved it. Same with all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Number 3 is a bit hard to swallow, but I love all that stuff. So you've started breaking. You had your trading card sets in like boxes or wrapped, right? And like
I had the big plastic cases to pull apart. Yeah.
Right, and so like I guess that must be pretty cool. Like being able to go through and actually see them again rather than just seeing them in stacks. You can sort of now are you revisiting everything and like what are you finding that, like, what's a set that you've just recently started like going through again and kind of found a new, like, and went, oh wow, that's really cool? Like,
probably the Batman, the '89 Batman Series 1.
yeah, are they the white,
and then
the white or the yellow border?
The white border.
White border.
The white border.
Yeah.
Series 2 is the yellow.
Right. Yeah, no, classic. Like, there's so many good images on there. You know, Tim Burton's stuff probably lends itself pretty well to trading cards and that. Like,
all the sketches and
the concept art.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Which I remember that specifically from, just because you mentioned, I remember that specifically, the concept art. And the same Ghostbusters had the same. They had the sketches of the ghosts, and I remember that as actually being something really cool. Star Wars still does that a little bit. They'll throw some concept art in and that. But as far as, like, you know, so you're revisiting a lot of, you know, the older trading cards, and obviously you're involved in, you know, creating new sets as well. Like, what do you think, what are some of the things about trading cards that you think were really good back then that maybe is missing now, or that you're trying to bring back now?
I feel like everything had a trading card set back then. Yeah. That's the thing I miss. Just the look of them. Everything's so glossy now, which of course it's 2020. Obviously, these things are going to look amazing. And that's why we're trying to, you know, bring it back to that whole chip back, wax back look.
For sure. I mean, there's a nostalgia just in holding the card, really.
Yeah,
you know,
opening up.
The stuff that you're doing, I mean, there's the part of the what makes them cool, what makes them part of the value of the Fright Rags trading card sets is that they don't look like the 2020, you know, super glossy. And those have their place, you know, when you're making when you're making trading card sets on The Walking Dead, which is filmed in HD. Like, you want it to look, you want it to look slick in that, you know, but when you're making a trading card set based on a movie from the 80s or the 70s or whatever,
you want it to.
Well, you want it. Yeah, that's right. You want it to look. One of my personal favorite things is I like anything where it was something made today that looks like it should have been made back then. You know, that it's almost like a new old replica. But I guess, like, so, I mean, you know, I'm guessing you're not missing the bubble gum.
You'd be surprised. No, I'm not missing it, but that's what people always ask is why is there no bubble gum? And there's legalities to putting those in there.
Yeah.
I wanted to just put like a pink thing in there to make it look like the gum, but it's just not working. Yeah. Yeah,
right. Yeah, well, I know that I was listening to an interview with Gary Durrani. Do you know who Gary Durrani is?
I don't.
Okay, so he wrote the backs of most Topps trading card sets through the 80s and 90s. So he wrote all the text that's on the back of Star Wars cards and pretty much anything that Topps did in the 80s and 90s. He was the main guy. He was one of the main writers. He created Dinosaurs.
What a cool job.
I know. He created Dinosaurs Attack.
Okay.
So, right? And he was saying that when Michael Jackson had his Topps trading card release, that he specifically said that he wanted the gum in the packs to be foil wrapped like a piece of like Wrigley's gum.
Oh.
So, which I don't have any packs myself of it, but yeah, apparently that was one condition, was that instead of the gum just being tossed in there with the cards, that Michael Jackson said to Topps, if you're going to do cards for me, I want the gum to be wrapped, which is like, you think, well, it's not too hard. Why couldn't, you know, still do it? But you're right. I mean, Topps started off as a bubblegum company. Like, they weren't, you know, they were a bubblegum company that happened to sort of make photo cards to help move the bubblegum. You know, like, well, people aren't buying enough bubblegum on its own, so let's put a couple of Batman cards in there, and then that moves another 5-cent stick of gum, you know. Whereas, you know, now I guess, well, they haven't probably put gum in cards for a long time now, and now it's just a whole thing. And I'm learning, like, again, myself, just having to go, well, instead of me paying 40 cents for a pack of cards or 50 cents or whatever it is, I'm paying, you know, $100+ for a box, but you're getting, you know, you're getting autographs, you're getting, say, sketches, you're getting, you know, pieces of costume and things like that. Well, next time I get you on, I want to definitely get some card sets, like get you to break out some stuff. If you haven't already today, got anything sort of handy?
Boom.
Oh, nice. All right.
We got
What are we looking at here?
Rocketeer.
Rocketeer. Yeah, I've got some boxes of Rocketeer right behind me.
Let's see.
I see Dick Tracy.
Gremlins.
Gremlins, yeah. I thought it was Dick Tracy. Very similar.
They got the same yellows.
Yeah.
Goonies.
Oh, wow. We never got them here. I've never seen Goonies cards.
You'll recognize these.
Yeah, Robocop.
We got the Robocops.
Oh, right. So, Robocop. Let's see if I can do this without pulling my in-ears out. So,
Oh, wow.
this was our Australian Robocop set.
Look at that box.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive, and we called them movie cards. Movie cards, not trading cards. So made by Regina. They're all cello packs in there. They're not wax packs. Now, this is what I want to ask you. This says this is Robocop 2 plus first movie scenes. So it's Robocop 2, but some of the cards are from the first movie. Did you guys have the same?
Yes, like literally the first 50 cards are from the first movie.
Right. What a weird choice to make, to go like, we missed Robocop 1. I think we'll just throw in some randos.
Yeah.
But again, I think I brought this up with someone before, is like, Robocop's not really a movie that kids should be.
Either's two.
I collected Robocop cards, but I don't think I had ever seen the movie. I think I just collected it because I could. Again, bubblegum maybe. But you go to hire that movie, and it's like, well, for us it would be.
Oh my god.
Yeah, well, or it'd be MA. My parents would be like, well, no, you can't see that. There's no way.
Plus they made it into a cartoon series as well.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow! I never saw that.
That was the thing. Back in the 80s, they would take R-rated properties and make cartoons out of them. Rambo had its own cartoon.
Rambo did.
Robocop. Yeah.
Wow. Oh man, now you're taking me back on that. I don't remember those cartoons. I don't know whether I think we were talking about because in England, not here necessarily, but in England, Ninja had to be replaced with Hero on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Interesting.
So they are Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, and Michelangelo doesn't have nunchucks, maybe, because I think kids were fashioning nunchucks out of things from home. And, hitting everyone with them. But cartoons, I remember, I get inappropriate movies. This is probably a good separate thing as well, but inappropriate movies to be turned into cartoons or toys or trading cards for kids. Police Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Police Academy.
The first movie's R-rated.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so your R is a different R, I think. So R-rated here is 18+.
Okay.
But yeah, Police Academy, actually, which I remember being a big fan of Cops. Do you remember Cops?
Yep. COPS, yeah.
COPS, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're still marketing cards to 6-year-olds, right? Sort of 6 to 10-year-olds. I mean, are 7 and 8-year-olds watching Rambo? Again,
no.
I don't know. I can't remember if we were or not, or whether you know what as well back then.
I was an anomaly because my dad took me to I saw Caddyshack when I was 4. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 8. So my dad took me to these things. So I was definitely not the norm, so to speak, where I'm seeing all these R-rated movies. And then when I watch these movies today, and I'm like, holy crap, what was my dad thinking?
Yeah, I think I was the same with stuff like Predator and stuff like that. It was
11 when I saw Predator.
All I can put it down to is that there weren't very many TV stations at the time. If something like Predator came on TV, it was a big deal. And so it was just what was on. And they probably cut a lot of stuff out of it back then. If if you rented the VHS, well, then you got the.
What is this part?
Yeah, that's right. But on TV, I hear they censored quite a bit of stuff, especially swear words and things like that. But again, yeah, I have memories of sort of seeing Predator or Rambo or whatever. But it must have not in a sense of where I sat down and I watched the film, but maybe more that it was just on. And that no one bothered, none of the parents bothered to sort of go, you shouldn't be watching this. You should, go to bed or whatever.
I feel like that made me want to watch it more, but my dad never really censored anything.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, really, really inappropriate things. Like, I didn't see Texas Chainsaw Massacre until I was at least a teenager.
Yeah, see, I didn't. Geez, what was my first horror film? You know what? We probably had like a birthday sleepover party at someone's house, and their parents didn't give a crap about what they watched.
So we're gonna watch Friday the 13th,
and so we're gonna watch Candyman or something like that.
God. My God!
Because remember, I mean, 83. So 93, I'm 10 years old. So someone hires out Candyman, or I know that my mum was really against It. Stephen King's It,
which was weird because that was a TV movie, so it was as heinous as something that was released in theaters.
Yeah, first horror movie for you?
Halloween. It was on TV. I was, I think, 4 maybe. It was like the ABC premiere, NBC premiere.
And did they edit the hell out of it? Did you find out later on?
Yeah, to the point where they had to film new stuff to put into it.
Really?
Because the runtime would have been shorter if they cut out all the. There's not much blood, but nudity and.
So they actually had to film extra stuff just to make it safe for TV.
Yep. Jamie Lee Curtis had to wear a wig because her hair was short when they were filming. It was right around when they were filming Halloween 2.
Really? Wow. Well, thanks so much, Chris, for coming on and having the first chat with me. We've got to definitely do this again and look at some, look at some trading cards in depth. I've got the guy who I interviewed just a couple of days ago, Jeff Trax from the Cardboard. He is sending me 4 boxes of Dinosaurs Attack over from Ypsilanti, Michigan. So I'm interested to, talk about money. It was a bit of a process getting it here for less than a fortune. So, I think we definitely need to do some deep dives into Super Card Set. Maybe pick 1 or 2 and go through and see what they got right, see what they got wrong. All right. So, thanks again for coming on, and I'll have you on again soon. And thanks very much.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
So there it is, my talk with Chris Tanski. Now time for a giveaway. I have these wax packs going to be up for giveaway. I'm happy to ship them anywhere in the world. All you need to do is answer through email, how old was Chris when he first saw Caddyshack? All right, so email those answers through. I will pick a random name, and those wax packs will go out to the winner on the date that I state below. Well, thanks again, and I hope you hang around for another one coming up real soon. Thanks.